Welcome to Real Talk. I'm Faisal Karmali. Today we have Alykhan Velji. Alykhan is a well-known interior designer and principal at Alykhan Velji Designs. I wanted to have Alykhan on the show because he's the guy that went from a creator all the way to a national brand. Now stay tuned to the end of the episode. Alykhan will give you his best pieces of advice for your business so you can take it to the next level. Let's get started.
It's all about the stories of the businesses and the people involved.
That's why we're here. No entrepreneur does it by themselves. Alykhan, I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you so much. It's so nice to be here.
You're part of an industry and part of a certain group of people that have really excelled in your industry. You're pretty much everywhere on TV and across this country. So let's start off with the genesis of how you started out this whole career of yours. What got you into being into the design world?
For me, having an interior design business for the last 15 years, I feel like I've always been a creative person. Creativity has always been in me from the get-go. When I lived in Africa, I was, always making things and always wanting to be creative, and I was really into fashion. And then moving to Canada in 1988 with my parents, we lived in Dar es Salaam and then we moved here. Of course, being in the culture that we're in, grades are obviously at the utmost importance. It doesn't matter if you're in grade 2, kindergarten, or 12. It's grades always have to be on point. So my grades were always great, and that was something that was instilled in me from a very young age. But I also was very creative. So in any of my options, I would be taking art, I would be taking dance, and that's something that my parents really helped facilitate. They didn't say that, oh, you can't do dance, or you can't be in art, you have to take home ec, or you have to take sports or whatever. They let me do what I wanted as long as my grades were okay.
Okay.
But I feel like because they facilitated my artistic ability, that was able to flourish a little bit,
Okay.
So taking arts and I just feel like as a young kid, being able to do crafts in my room and, my parents not really saying anything about it was so awesome, because that's what brought me joy. Right?
Which is not the norm.
It isn't the norm.
Because the norm, especially within our community, coming into Canada in the 80s, it was a lot of pressure, at least I perceived it to be, of being an engineer, doctor, lawyer, accountant, something in that kind of professional degree or professional program where you and I both didn't do that.
But there's definitely some of that. And I feel like my parents let me kind of engage in these artistic abilities because they thought, okay, well, this is just it's just a phase. So he's just a kid. He's going to go through it and whatever, but he's going to become a doctor, or an engineer, And so, that's kind of, what I did during high school. I also, took drama and all of these things to help kind of be creative. And then it came down to applying for university.
Yeah.
And all of my friends, the people that I surrounded myself with, were all going to university. They all had really good grades. And so what else was I supposed to do but to apply? Yeah. And I got into the University of Calgary and was ready to go in the fall. But during that summer, after grade 12, I was really thinking about it and didn't feel comfortable at all with the decision that I had made to go to the University of Calgary, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure of what path I was taking, and I thought I was just going aimlessly into something blindly, right? So I sat down with my parents and I told them that I wasn't going to go.
And you're still here to tell the story.
Yes, just barely, yeah. And it wasn't a good conversation. They thought I was absolutely crazy not to go, and they obviously were coming from a place where they never really had that opportunity. Growing up in Africa, they didn't have that opportunity to be able to apply to a university and get in and have the education that I was now getting, and I was saying no.
Yeah.
Which I can understand now was a bit silly. Back then, I didn't get it. Yeah. So in any case, I didn't go. I didn't end up going. I took 4 years off and worked the most random jobs that you could ever imagine. Wow. I worked at Nortel. I worked at a coffee shop. I worked in retail. But working retail also helped me kind of come to the idea of what I wanted to do because I really loved fashion. And so that then led me into doing visual merchandising, so creating window displays. I worked with Zara, I worked with Esprit, I worked at Le Chateau, and that really was like, oh, this is great. I'm actually happy doing this. I love going into work and doing that.
Yeah.
And then, my parents were like, okay, like 4 years, you're living at home, you're still working these, kind of odd jobs. When are you actually going to get a career?
Yeah.
And so my best friend found an ad in the newspaper that Bow Valley College was offering a interior decorating diploma.
Okay.
Took the program. It was 8 months, and it made my parents really happy too because they actually went to Bow Valley to do their upgrading when they moved here.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and the rest is history, I guess.
There's a big jump that you've taken from going into a post-secondary institution, getting your diploma, and then starting a business. Because a lot of people that get diplomas or go through post-secondary education, they can do something they enjoy, but still be an employee, not a business owner, not an entrepreneur. How did you make that leap?
I think for me, it's everything that my parents had taught me is to do what makes you happy. And so, obviously after all of this, they saw that I was really happy doing the interior decorating program. And after that, I think being a business owner is something that also is instilled in us, where it's like, yes, you have to own your own business.
Yes.
And all of those kind of small things that they used to tell me growing up really affected me in that way. And then also, while I was taking these courses, then you're introduced to all of these amazing interior designers in Canada and abroad, Martha Stewart, Sarah Richardson, Jonathan Adler, all of these amazing designers that are not only interior designers, but they've created almost like lifestyle brands.
Yeah.
And so that was something that was very important to me. And I knew that because I love design so much, I necessarily didn't want to work for, I knew I had to get experience for sure working with someone and getting the knowledge. But I knew in the end I wanted to own my own business. And so I started my own business as soon as I was done school. I had cards made and I had a website, even though there was just a landing page for like the first 3 years.
Yeah.
I just knew that this was going to be a good, gentle reminder that that's the end goal, right? Because I know that a lot of people kind of get stuck in a rut, and that's maybe what I did in that 4 years after I was done high school. I kind of got stuck doing smaller, dead-end jobs that weren't necessarily getting me anywhere.
Sure.
But I feel like this was a reminder to me always that it's like, that's your goal, to have your own business.
Yeah.
So after I graduated, I worked in retail. I worked at Buran Gallery, which is no longer open, unfortunately, but it was an awesome shop that carried Indian antiques, Afghani carpets, tribal rugs. So that really gave me a huge in-depth knowledge of working with antiques and how things are made. And so I feel like that's a huge component as well of doing decor and design, because you have to speak about the product that you're, presenting to your client.
Yeah.
Yes, you can go and buy everything new, but I feel like it takes a whole different type of thinking to be able to incorporate antiques and beautiful rugs and textures and all of those things that I think are so important to me.
Your face still lights up when you talk about that.
Oh, well, I'm glad, because it's a passion for
Yeah.
me. It's a passion for me to create beautiful interiors and to make my clients feel that these interiors that I'm working on are a reflection of their personality, but also look really great. And so spaces that they feel comfortable in. And I think that, I always tell my staff, I'm like, it's not brain surgery what we're doing, but it's something that's so important because it's a feeling that we're evoking in our clients when they walk into their homes. And I feel like that's super important as well. I may not be a brain surgeon or, a heart surgeon or a doctor or an engineer, but I feel like what we're doing is very important
There's
too.
an impact.
Yes,
There's
yes.
a huge impact.
Yeah.
And we were talking before the show that when you started your business, it took you how many years to get your first client?
3.
What did you do for 3 years when you didn't have a client?
Well, I just worked at the shop, Buran Gallery. So the owners were so amazing in that they knew that I had just graduated. And even though they were a retail shop, they would allow me to go to clients' homes and give them advice So if they purchased a rug, they're like, okay, well, Allie will come and deliver the rug. And then we would do a walkthrough and I would give them advice on, smaller things that they needed to do, which also helped their business because then they would buy more stuff from them.
For sure.
So that's kind of how I started. I started doing design consultations through Buran Gallery and also trying to go to as many events as I could. I feel like I had these cards and not only was I helping Buran, but I was also then saying, well, I also have my design firm that can help you out. So it was like a win-win triangular situation.
So you basically connected with a major brand that was already have a customer base that you were leveraging your skill set to.
Absolutely.
Which doesn't happen in your industry that much.
No, it doesn't.
People are just literally putting up business cards on a website and saying, hire me. And that happens in every business that's a service-based business.
Totally.
And they're not getting recognized. They're not getting that customer. They're not getting that business. You did it a bit different.
And I feel like I needed that because I needed to have experience. I needed to be around people. I needed to figure out exactly, what the mentality was for people that were hiring designers. Because for me to just go out and say, hey, I can do a consultation for you, and then go in and not do that great of a job or not necessarily have a rapport with the client, I feel like having that retail experience really helped me know how to be with clients because we are in a service industry. That is what we're doing. The client always has to be right. That's the kind of mentality of that service base where it's like, okay, you need to be a certain way when you're dealing with your clients. And so that really helped me for sure.
So it started off basically as a side gig and then it turned into your main gig.
Totally.
When did that happen?
When did that happen? It's funny when you start thinking about these things, right? So while I was working at Buran, I also, again, and I can't thank the owners of Buran enough because they really put me out there. And so anytime, like a newspaper or somebody would contact them about wanting decor advice of how to incorporate antiques they would put me in the forefront.
Wow.
So I would do all the answers to the questions that the newspaper had. So that really helped me get out there. And in doing that, there was a lady by the name of Andrea Cox who worked at the Calgary Sun back then. And I did a lot of articles for her. And she forwarded to me a press release that she got for, it was called HGTV Superstar Challenge, where they were looking for the next design superstar.
Okay.
And I was actually I was in Dar es Salaam with my family. We were gone for the summer. And I got this email and she's like, you have to apply for this. You have to apply for this. And I was like, I don't know, like TV? I was like, oh God. So anyway, the minute I got back, I recorded a short video in a client's home, again, through Buran, and sent in my video basically with I think it was 2 hours to spare. I had to mail in a video cassette, like it wasn't through Dropbox or anything back then. So with 2 hours to spare, and then I forgot about it. And then 3 months later, I get a call saying that I was chosen as the top 10 to go to Toronto and compete in this design competition.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was insanity.
Wow.
And so, did the design competition, came in top 3, didn't win, but then that also then got me in the front of all of these HGTV producers. And I ended up getting another show out of that. So that, again, just helped my career and helped me get the motivation to say, now I can actually go out on my own because I have these credentials.
There are business owners in your industry and in the service industry that can learn a lot from that little process that you went through. You kind of glazed over the fact that you were providing articles for the Calgary Sun. And that is big. Back then, especially, newspapers were the go-to.
Yes.
If you want to get relevant, timely information, to dial up on the internet was a lot difficult. A lot easier to go to the corner store or have the paper delivered to your door. So you met the actual medium that was in demand at the time. That person that you were working with said, hey, you need to apply. And that opened up doors. So you built a network. These are things I think a lot of business owners don't do. They're not willing to put themselves out there. It must have been really scary. It was scary for me to get on TV.
Totally.
It's probably freaking you out at the very beginning.
Absolutely.
To do that video must have been very
Oh
challenging.
my God. Oh my God. Yeah, I think I borrowed my uncle's, video recorder that he did.
camcorders?
Yeah, the camcorder that he used at weddings, But I mean, definitely it was something that was hard. And if you're not going to put yourself out there and be in uncomfortable situations, I don't think you can grow. Right? I think that's the biggest thing, because those are the situations that I put myself in, because I knew that if I didn't do it, I wouldn't learn from them, or I wouldn't grow, or it could present such an amazing opportunity for me. And so I was thankful enough to have people around me that really supported me and said that I could do it, because that also really helps.
Yeah.
But also just taking that leap of faith and saying, I know what I'm doing, so I can do this, I think is key.
You get the exposure nationally. You get the exposure with potential customers. And that's how it started. That was the genesis of getting more and more clients.
Absolutely, because from then on, because I placed in top 4, and then the press releases started going out to, all of the media outlets.
Yeah.
The more media outlets in Calgary started finding out about me, and all over Canada. So then I started becoming almost the go-to person for design advice, right? So the Calgary Herald would call me, then the Calgary Sun would call me, and I still have the same contacts that I did back then now. Which I think is also a great thing to think about, is that you need to nurture the contacts that you make and build those relationships and really hold them close to your heart, because I think that they can do so much for you.
Correct.
So that was something that was very important to me as well. So I was lucky in the fact that, yes, I got to be on a TV show and do all the things, but also the nurturing of these different contacts and the producers and always keeping in touch, I think, is key.
Yeah. What would you say throughout your business career has been your biggest success?
You know what? I think for me is just opening up my own business and having just the motivation and the strength to say, yep, I can do this on my own, and I am going to do this, even though nobody necessarily in my family had done that before. So I didn't really know what to base that on. I didn't know how to create invoices. I didn't know how to bill clients. I didn't know how to create a proper contract, but I just figured it out, made mistakes, and learned from them, and did it. So I feel like just opening up my business in general was a huge step. And I think that was kind of my biggest success, because I mean, with all of the ups and downs that we've gone through, with the economy, with the mistakes that I've made, with all the things, it's still surviving and it's thriving. And I seriously could not feel more thankful and feel all the gratitude, because I feel like all the hard work is paying off.
When you say all the mistakes that you made, what would you say is your biggest mistake or failure?
I think one of the biggest ones was contracts. I hate contracts. I feel like, because for me, when I'm starting out, again, it's not necessarily that I'm a business person. I'm a creative, and I just want to make people's houses look good. So I don't necessarily think about that maybe we need to sign a contract so that I don't get duped, or everything is just laid out of exactly how things are going to work out and what I am going to provide. And so there was a few times where, I just didn't end up getting paid for my services because I didn't have a contract in place. Wow. So that is a huge, huge learning curve for me, and something that I really should have done from the get-go, is just having something written where people sign, so it says, okay, this is what we're doing. I'm offering you either an hourly rate or a lump sum fee. This is the amount of meetings that we're going to have. Having it as detailed as possible, just so that in case anything goes wrong, you always have something to fall back on and say, well, this is what you signed, and it says it right here. Yeah. Just because if you have it in writing, then it's set. You can always go back to it.
You've grown from being a one-man shop to many employees. Are any of your employees on the creative side?
All of them.
How does that work? Because you're the head creative person in charge, and you have a certain vision. And those employees of yours may not share the same vision as you.
And I love that. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't necessarily. They should share the same way of thinking, in the way that how we design for clients, and that we take
The process.
the process, absolutely, and how we take their ideas into account and make this a home that is a reflection on them, not necessarily our design aesthetic. Because yes, there's some clients that come to us that have no design aesthetic, but they don't know what they want, and it's our job to figure it out and let them know what that is. But I make it a goal to always tell any employee of mine is that I have hired you for a reason, is because I trust your judgment and I trust your design ability. And so I want you to let that fly, because if I am going to say, well, if it's my way or no way, or if it doesn't have my design stamp on it, then it's not going to work, then I am basically hiding their creative talent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden they have to all be, oh, is Allie gonna like it? Oh, is Allie gonna like this? Oh, is Allie gonna? Whereas because I know that if I'm allowed to fly free and have creative freedom, that is when I do my best work.
There you go.
And so I want my employees to be able to do the same thing. Of course, there's going to be some tweaks, but I feel like I want them to be as creative as possible so I can get the most out of them.
That's a big challenge. That can be a lot of risk to your brand.
Oh, absolutely. But
So why do it?
I just feel like if I was working for someone, I would want them to do the same thing for me. You know, I would want them to say, you are great at what you do, and I've hired you for a reason. I'm not hiring you to be a minion of mine and to do whatever I say, because I would not be able to be creative or have a creative process that way. And that's not how a creative process works.
Yeah.
You know, if you have something looming over you, that creative process is not allowed to expand and become amazing. So for me, it's like letting them fly and then having a discussion about it and saying, why did you choose the things that you did? And so we are very collaborative at our AVD studio, and I think that's very important too.
You've branched out your business. You went from design work, basically you in the home working with your client, to now going to selling product. You got into the rug business.
Yeah.
Furniture. You're going into wallpaper, textile. Wow, that's a big change from being a service now into a product. What changed?
Well, I mean, for me, yes, design is great, and interior design and creating beautiful homes and working with, you know, builders and all of that is awesome. But I always find that for me, because I am an entrepreneur, I always want to do something new. What's next? What's next on the horizon?
That's right.
You know, and so for me, that's how it's become in design. Like I mentioned before, Sarah Richardson, Jonathan Adler, all of these Tom Dixon, all of these interior designers have started off with interior design, but then exploded into more lifestyle. And so for me, you know, I love creating rugs and making designs and, you know, designing furniture. And we do that for clients sometimes, but just not on a broader scale. So when I had the opportunity to design a furniture collection with Mobilia Canada, I was ecstatic. I was like, this is totally up my alley. And so we designed it here. I had a chance to go to India. I took my mom, which is, again, these opportunities that have presented themselves, I have been so fortunate to have. It's just been an awesome experience. So yeah, the furniture portion of it also is a huge learning curve for me too, because figuring out manufacturing and, you know, how many orders you put in of whatever, it's like, it's also knowledge. I'm also learning on a regular basis, and that really helps me to be a better business person.
So you've got these different product lines, you've got your design work. What's your biggest fear when you're doing all this?
That it's not going to sell. I always have that in the back of my mind. When I did the furniture collection, I was like, well, what if we launch it and nobody buys it? Or, you know, it's a huge failure.
So what happens if that was to occur to you? Because it didn't.
It didn't, no.
What if it did?
You know, I would be heartbroken for sure, but I feel like there are many things that I've done that have not done so well. We opened up an online shop called AVD Shop, where we started curating local designer goods. So basically people that would make, you know, ceramic bowls and do some artwork and some textiles. And I thought, okay, this would be a great place for local artisans to be able to sell their items without me having to buy a whole bunch of stock and have it stocked. Whereas, you know, people would maybe go online, purchase something, that order would then go directly to the maker, and then they would ship it out.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was a great idea. Well, we started it. and nothing happened.
Okay.
So, and nothing happened. And I thought we did this big video about it, and there was like a big launch, and I thought this was going to be something so good. It was an epic fail. Like, it just didn't work. And so for me to then sit down with my team, we figured out, okay, well, why didn't it work? What went wrong there? And I just feel like we just weren't putting all of our efforts into it. I feel like having an online shop, you almost need someone that's 100% dedicated to doing that. Yeah. And because we were also running a design business and trying to do this on the side, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think of other ways now where we can do that, but maybe not have an online shop. So learning curves, learning experiences, you just have to take from them and learn from them and not make the same mistakes over and over again, because that's what I feel like is just bad decisions, bad business.
There are many business owners who didn't go to become a professional, like a doctor, an engineer, lawyer, but have different skill sets, have passion like you do. What advice, give me 3 tips that you can give those business owners to help really flourish and take their business to the next level?
Well, I think firstly is follow your gut. If you really feel strongly about something, I think that you should go for it. And I've said this for as long as I can remember. If you're doing what you love, I feel like the universe is automatically going to make it so that you excel at it. And yes, there's going to be ups and downs. Like, it's not just, oh, hooray, I have my own business, I'm doing what I love, and it's going to be great. Yeah. Of course not. But I just feel like when you're doing something you love, you just put in so much of your heart and soul into it that it's bound to do well. And if it doesn't, there's a pathway that it's creating for something else to happen. So follow your gut is number 1. Number 2 is hire people that are good at the things that you're not good at. Okay. Don't try to do everything yourself, because that never works. For me, it was the whole money side of things and the taxes and accounting and invoicing. That's something that really, even when I say those words, gives me a headache. So I hired an accountant right away, because I was like, I need somebody that's going to make sure that he's keeping all of my books right, that I'm doing my taxes appropriately, that I'm invoicing right, and has all of that under control, because then that allows me to focus on my business and to do what I'm really good at. And money and invoicing is not that. Okay. And thirdly is setting goals. I feel like always having a goal is very important, because it always keeps you working towards something. So when you get to a certain goal and you finish something, make sure there's another one that you're setting, because I feel like there's never an area where you're just going to be, okay, I'm happy here. Constantly setting goals for yourself to make you, I just feel like that makes you a better person, a better business person, because you're constantly striving to make your business better and to make yourself better. So whether that's, a small goal like, oh, I want to start carrying, so-and-so brand in my store, or I want to, take a certain class, or whatever it is, just have goals to always make sure that you're striving for something.
So thanks for joining us today, Alykhan.
You're so welcome.
If you want more real talk and tips to help you succeed in your business, subscribe and hit the bell for all the latest updates. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.